Speaker number one, caught in the net, caught in the net. Speaker number one, Richard Snyder. Richard Snyder.
How many of you remember Dragnet? Growing up, I was a big fan of Dragnet. I especially liked Sergeant Joe Friday, played by Jack Webb. He was cool, calm, and collected. And with his staccato, just the facts approach, he always caught the bad guy. And growing up, I wanted to be a detective, just like Sergeant Joe Friday. Little did I realize that one day I would get caught in the net. Bum, ba bum, bum. Bum, ba bum, bum, bum. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, it was 1984. I had long hair with a ponytail in back. I wore a beret and I had a goatee. I was 20 years old. I was cool, calm, and crazy. I looked like a cross between a beatnik and a hippie, and I probably stood out a little on that hot August day in 1984. It was certainly too hot for this tie and this shirt. My father had dropped me off at Royal Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, several hours before the game was to begin. And as there'd soon be 30,000 fans swarming the stadium, I didn't think it very unusual when I saw a few policemen out of the corner of my eyes. But when a van pulled up and 4 uniformed policemen jumped out, I figured something exciting was about to happen. Suddenly I heard someone shout, "Hey, you!" I looked around the direction of the shouting, and there was a policeman looking right at me. "Yes, you! Put your hands up!" They next frisked me, and I was not in a frisky mood at that moment. "Did you find anything?" "No weapons, but I found this flask." Next, they asked me to do a series of steps, which can best be described as a Macarena, done backwards. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Hey, Macarena. Holy macaroni. This isn't a song and dance. This is real life. I'm caught in the net. Bum, 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 bum. All right, buddy. What's your name and what were you doing last Tuesday around 7 p.m.? My name's Richard Snyder, but officer, why have you handcuffed me? And why are you asking me questions? I'll ask the questions. Just give me the facts. Oh, no. A Sergeant Joe Friday wannabe. Bum, 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 bum. My mind went back to my flask. I couldn't take the 5th. The police had already taken it. I'll just have to tell the truth. But I can't admit that I'm public enemy number 1. That just as you're about to sit down and enjoy a meal with the family, the phone would ring. Ring! I was a bum, 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 bum. Tell the marketer. I didn't tell the police that. I was working for my father last Tuesday, officer. Well, is he here to verify your story? No, sir, but he'll be back after the game is over and he can verify my story then. All right, buddy, let's go. Where are we going, officer? Downtown for further questioning. Just then, a little girl and her mother passed by. Mommy, what did that man do? Shh. He's a bad guy. No, does this look like the face? Never mind. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a good guy. What's that? Officer, a terrible mistake has been made. I'm not a bad guy. I'm a good guy. Do you have proof? Yes, but it's in the pocket if you take the handcuffs off. All right. But don't try anything stupid. We've got you covered. See, officer? This is my proof. A card-carrying good guy. All right, your story checks out. We're going to let you go, but don't try anything stupid. We'd recognize that face anywhere. Fellow Toastmasters, I learned 2 things that day. We've all heard the expression, don't judge a book by its cover, but many people do. So that day when I got home, I shaved my facial hair and got a haircut. Secondly, if I got caught in the net, it can happen to any of you. So if you don't already have one, go out and get a good guy's card today and don't leave home without it. Bum, ba bum, bum. Bum, ba bum, bum, bum. Mr. Toastmaster.
Our next speaker in this event is Michael Alexander, my Senate confirmation hearing. My Senate confirmation hearing, Michael Alexander. Michael, take it away.
I'd like to thank the members of this select committee for giving me a chance to explain my nomination for head of the Environmental Protection Agency. I know what many of you are thinking. Why would a vacuum cleaner salesman qualify to be head of an environmental protection agency? Is it because he attended reform school with the president? I'm sorry, high school with the president. No, I think if I explain to you how Tabby Cat vacuums came to exist, you'll understand my environmentalist chops. I was a simple vacuum cleaner salesman trying to make a living. And I went to this lovely little home with this little old lady. And I set up my vacuum cleaner, I poured the stuff out on the floor, and I turned the vacuum on. And suddenly, there was a lightning strike. And the vacuum went into hyper mode. And it started to suck in more and more. First, the cat, for whom my company is named, then the rug, and I realized I'm probably not going to make this sale, but I'm not going to give up. And then the TV set. Now, the TV set was showing Shark Week on the Discovery Channel. And since Shark Vacuums was one of our competitors, I figured I can work this into my spiel. Until I got sucked into the vacuum cleaner. And it got stronger and stronger, and slowly this thing started to spin and the vacuum bag burst. And I was taken up into the sky along with the TV set, the rug, and the cat. And my first thought, of course, was, I wonder if our warranty covers this. But I reached into my pocket, grabbed my Dramamine, and said, I've got to get out of this somehow. But we kept swirling faster and faster, around and around. Houses were picked up. Places were broken into. It was a major disaster happening. And then suddenly, we started to approach the industrial section of town. Now, many of you know that in the hometown of Tabby Cat Vacuums, there's a Gerber factory. Now, I've never had anyone explain to me why you would have a single company that both made knives and baby food. It seems like a product liability suit just waiting to happen. But given that I was spinning around, I didn't have time to think about their business model. Although I thought their insurance agent might give me a commission. But I realized what I had to do when the factory suddenly burst open. And I knew not at all what I had to do. And suddenly there were knives swirling all around me, the finest Gerber knives ever made. But there were also bottles which would later be filled with baby food, if anything survived. And I devised a plan. So quickly and deftly, I grabbed one of the knives and took a slice out of the tornado that my vacuum had created. And I took that slice and I put it into one of the baby food jars. And I took another slice and put it in another baby food jar until eventually the tornado got smaller and smaller and smaller. And I had more and more bags, or more and more bottles, I should say, of powerful, vacuuming tornadoes. Well, eventually, the tornado died, and I had all of these vacuums, tornadoes, and I realized that if I put them into empty vacuum cases, I would have an environmentally friendly, non-electronic vacuum that I could sell to the world. And furthermore, my business model expanded because now anywhere in the world where a tornado or a hurricane occurs, my people are there with fine, high-quality knives to chop up and bottle the vacuumed tornado, making people safe and providing more product. So you see, my friends, my environmental chops are solid. I have developed a non-electronic vacuum and solved the tornado problem. And that's why you should accept my nomination, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Michael. Now we've learned a little bit about what tall tales can do for you. One of the things that I think is really great about tall tales, not only does it stimulate that imagination, of course, it prepares you for political office at the last speech, because you'll learn how to tell a lie and make it sound interesting, right? But you let your imagination go, you get very creative, and if you'll notice, oftentimes in our tall tales, it allows you to even be more exaggerated in facial expression and body gestures and the exploration of costumes and that sort of thing. So as Jim did in his part. Something for you to consider. Now, what you need to do is you at home can vote by sending a chat, right, Rob? You'll get votes back by online, and the people in the room will also get votes. All votes are equal. One vote per person, right? Not South Chicago, you only get to vote once. And do that. But I'll give you, just so you know, even though you don't have official ballot, I will read to you some of the things they look for in the official ballot. And it's 30% is speech development, opening, build up, climax, organization, and smoothness. 25% is speech technique, effective use of exaggerations, irony, pun, surprise, twist, humor, slapstick, etc. The physical appearance, body language is 15%, voice is 15%, and appropriateness to speech purpose is also 15%, and audience, good grammar, pronunciation, and word selection. So basically, it is still a speech, even though you could have mispronunciations that were purposely put in.
So what, just write.
Just write the name, either Richard Snyder or Michael Alexander. And we will collect those and make an announcement later on. And we have trophies here to recycle trophies. Recycle trophies here to hand out to those people that do the best. Anyway, all right. I did want to have, I know we were talking, Connie and I were talking earlier about some of the tall tales that we have heard or have given. And one of those demonstrates to me one of the twist opportunities. I'm going to tell that one is about these people that are going to be hiring. They're going to try to get. They had a demonstration of Christmas, and they had to have some really good reindeer. There was a husband and wife team, and the husband said, "I need to fly over to Moscow, Russia, and get a hold of this guy that I know he's a communist. You don't like communists, but he's an expert on reindeer. You would spend all that money to fly over to Russia. Of course, you have to be long. Fly over to Russia just so you can get this one guy and fly him back and have him make a judgment as to which reindeer you should be choosing." Yeah, we want to have the best, don't we? But isn't there some expert somewhere that maybe can do a pretty good job? And he's, you don't understand it. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Okay. And with that, Robert have a couple of others I can tell, but Connie has a few little fun stories and stuff. We're going to talk about maybe some of those will be some of the punchlines that she's being used, and some of them will be a couple of ones that we did. You ready? Come on up. Give us some of those tall tales that we had like that.
Well, as Tom stated, we're always looking around for a tall tale idea. And so it could be a sign, it could be a song, it could be a quote, anything that might work. So as we're traveling around or whatever, we kept writing down all of these ideas. Now, most of them would not materialize, but some of them would. Polly wants a cracker. When the cat's away, the mice will play. Roll with a punch. This bear is repeating, hook, line and sinker, mind your own business. So just all kinds of ideas. What I think works the best is start at the end. So if you come up with your punchline, with that groaner, with that and then just build the story to get there and try to build it so that you're giving perhaps little hints along the way, but not too much. As my mentor, the person that first got me interested in doing a tall tale, Bob Palmer, said, be careful, make sure your title, and he gave an example of somebody whose title was the punchline. You don't want to do that. Or you don't want to give too many hints along the way. And then make sure the last thing you say is your punchline. And make sure you say it so you enunciate, so you take a little time so the audience gets it. Because you don't want to say, well, you know, and have to explain what it's all about. So some of the stories that we've had, well, the one that Bob Palmer gave was is based on the League of Women Voters, but his story was about them. And he got all demonstrative about the guy that went swim underneath and drilled a hole in the women's vote because they couldn't have women entering this men's contest. And sure enough, it ended up in the League of Women Voters. One of my favorites was about, and I can't remember the story, but anyway, there was a lady named Kathy, and whatever, something happened to her and she died, and they put her in this coffin, and they had some problems along the way, and at the very end, oh no, the coffin slipped down and she fell out, and the punchline, it was a decoffinated Kathy. Another favorite one for me was about this Asian girl who was beautiful, she was brilliant, she was personable, but she had terrible teeth. And so, you know, she couldn't smile. I mean, it would just held her back. And somebody came along and helped her, send her to the dentist. She got her mouth all fixed up. And then she just rose up in her occupation, and her name introduced along the way was Nautine. And the punchline, Nautine denture, Nautine game. So when she had her mouth fixed and all this wonderful happened to her because of that. So Nautine denture, Nautine game. And a friend of mine who was in Toastmasters briefly, her favorite movie was The Wizard of Oz. So anyway, so she talked about the story of Bosley the turkey. And he lived on the farm with the people, and you know what was going to happen to him as it got near Thanksgiving. But anyway, in the story, as they were preparing the meal and all, oh my goodness, I lost my ruby ring, and they're looking all over. And so at the end of the story, as they're preparing the turkey, there it was, her ring in the Wizard of Oz. So there you go, they're growing, it's like, oh my goodness. Did you want me to share one?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, I've enjoyed presenting tall tales over the years. Just because I love the creativity, that's one thing I love about Toastmasters. And the connecting with individuals. And so which one do you think, Tom? As the world churns or the big performance?
I think it's good.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. One I think has a better punchline, but the other one shows a lot of work with words and all. So this one, I think has a better punchline. Called the big performance. And excuse me that I didn't prepare that, I grabbed these out. For generations, they could not get along, not because of race, creed, nor color, but rather size. The shorts were 2 feet tall. The neighboring talls were 12 feet tall. These two groups had unusual preferences considering their sizes. The shorts like reading long novels, the tall short stories. Short women preferred ankle-length skirts, while the tall wore mini skirts up to here. Well, actually, up to here on them. The dream car of every short guy was a long black limousine. The tall dream, you guessed it, a little red sports car. Their talents were also very unexpected. Wouldn't you think that talls would be great in a choir or a chorus with big, booming voices to match their size? Wrong. The shorts, however, had amazingly loud and beautiful voices. The shorts should be great dancers, little twinkle toes, right? Wrong again. The talls, though, were light on their feet, moving gracefully across the dance floor. These talents came from generations of being in close contact with each other. The tall had to move gingerly about so they didn't step on the shorts. The short developed strong voices from yelling, "Hey, watch out!" to reach those tall ears up there. One day, like a miracle, talls and shorts sat down, compromised, and peace and harmony came to their communities. To celebrate, they planned a big party. It was a showcase performance combining the talents of these two groups. Audrey, the artistic director, urged each group to practice their wonderful talents. Then the big day, their dress rehearsal, right there with both groups on stage. The shorts took their places at the back of the stage, and beautiful melodies began to fill the auditorium. Soon, from each side of the stage, in an array of colorful tutus and tights, the tall leaped and twirled across the front of the stage. "Oh no!" cried Audrey. "Stop! Stop! Just can't see." How did that for us? The big awesome one. Can't see that for us for the meetings. Yes, it's okay. You want me to do another one? Okay, this one I think is fun. I'll give you an example of how you can work with words and have fun. This is where you see what it's all about. And what's fun afterward is I had people coming up and giving me even more examples of what I could have used. It's called As the World Churns. When Bossy gave birth to Blossom, she knew her cute, cuddly calf was truly the cream of the crop. Now Blossom was a beautiful young cow with big brown eyes and a sleek, low-fat figure. What a proud, happy mom. until he came along, riding in on his Kawasaki motorcycle. That fool from Florida with his sunglasses and his big gold bell around his neck, just a moving and a hooping. He called himself Miami. All the girls fell head over hooves. That was Miami's Vice. With that handsome face and physique, none could help but moon over Miami. And boy, he milked it for all it was worth. He was rolling in clover. At first, Bossy thought it was all utter nonsense. Now she was worried. Blossom was so moody lately. And while the others had moved on, got over him and were content to just chew their cuds, Blossom would just view her stud. Bossy just knew he was the type of guy who would curdle any mother's milk and sour her disposition. A bum steer, a real Hugh Heifer type. And one of us started talking, while old Uncle Ferdinand, he was just a big ox, always beefing about something, and Big Bertha, that old heifer, always did have hoof and mouth disease, but their comments did hurt. Poor Bossy now felt like an utter failure as a mother. She shouted at Blossom, "He'll just use you, and then take off her greener pastures. You must steer clear, dear." But Bossy was wrong. Miami loved Blossom, and he was responsible for giving Bossy the best gift ever. Her little grandbaby Buttercup, the most beautiful sight that could ever have passed your eyes.
And you never been in them. I didn't have to be with her. I ran across a couple more that would be hard to match with that, but one of the stories, its punchline was a snitch in time saved mine. And of course, it was about somebody working in the mine, unsafe conditions, they reported it, and they closed the mine down and saved all these people because but they didn't happen to them. I want to give you the opening line of one that I did a number of years ago, just to kind of give you, you know how long ago it was. It was probably when they had the Olympics on here, so it's during the time of the Olympics anyway. And I was a reporter at the Animal Olympics. This is Tom Pace reporting today's exciting event from the Animal Olympics here at the Hippodrome. Can you imagine the wrestling match between the octopus and the python? It only lasted 30 seconds, but it took them 2 hours to get them on the wall. And then, of course, you get to the end but they were all waiting for the final event where this champion pig, the archery title, champion pig had won every year for the last 8 Olympics. And they wondered whether the old lid could be out. Because the line is, could the old lid pig aim? Anyway, we want you to have fun with speaking, we want you to have fun with tall tales.